one of the many dreams of Luca Cipriano over here is that one day he will become a very famous actor. So today we're going to explore a little bit of inspiration, what it would look like if he would star in the next edition of Ocean's 11. Welcome to Threat Talks. My name is Lieuwe Jan Koning, and the subject of today is the MGM hack.
Welcome to Threat Talks. Let's delve deep into the dynamic world of cybersecurity.
Let me start by first introducing our two guests of today. Luca Cipriano, he's a threat intel specialist at Ontoit. Welcome. And Rob Maas, he is the field CTO of Ontoit. Gentlemen, the subject of today is an attack that happened towards MGM, right?
Yeah.
It was a big one. It was all over the news. Well, less than we would actually expect, huh? But it was still...
I think it was quite covered. Probably the news that I followed are not the mainstream news that everybody follows, but in those kind of news, it was quite mentioned.
It was not that much as in the mainstream.
Yeah, maybe it was not really mainstream, but in our sources,
in our bubble, it was available, but yeah.
Yeah, and there's a fun part about that. We'll discuss it as well because it created some confusion.
Nice. So what happened, gentlemen?
Basically this is about MGM Resorts International. They have hotels and casino. And in September 2023, they got ransomware. This is not the first time that this happened. They already suffered a data breach in 2020. They exposed like more than 10 million customers' information. This happened again. The attack was perpetrated by, two famous hacker groups. The Scattered Spider, where in collaboration with BlackCat or ALPHV, it's kind of ransomware as a service, and they managed to successfully exfiltrate data and ransom the MGM.
Yeah, I mean, that always triggers me, ransomware as a service. It looks fancy.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes also with hacking groups, there are some that are specialized in, initial access. So you have these initial access brokers. They're good, maybe, like, for example, Scattered Spider, they're good with social engineering. And, you need a whole different skill set, because maybe who was really good in social engineering is not really good at creating his own ransomware. So, of course, you can just collaborate and get a percentage of what you get or other arrangement, but work together. And
there's a whole economy down there.
Yeah, of course. I mean, as you can imagine, you need a lot of different skill sets in order to perform an attack such as this.
And how did they do it this time? Was it
this one, initially, they started with social engineering. So we did not we. Sorry, they did some research on LinkedIn, and they gather information about.
Maybe it's good to know that they didn't actually get the money. I mean, right? So.
No, they didn't pay.
This time they didn't pay. Yeah, they didn't pay the ransom. Yeah.
No. So, they started doing research, and they gathered a lot of information about a specific user that was working at the MGM using LinkedIn and social media, and that's how they prepared for the social engineering attack. So they used phishing, which is like a voice phishing attack. And they call
phishing with a V.
Phishing with a V, yeah. And they basically called the help desk, and they managed to, with all the information that they gathered, they managed to pretend to be that specific employee and to get for example, password reset, and they managed to get access to their to the MGM Okta environment. Yeah.
Rob?
Yeah,
phishing. That's user training. Huh? We need to educate users better. Is that how you would combat it?
It couldn't hurt, but I wouldn't go as far as that. If you train your users, that you would prevent such an attack, especially phishing with the V, this so with the voice. So it's like you call me and say, okay, but can you give me this password to log in for me? And if I then recognize your voice, then I'm maybe tripped in actually doing that, giving you the password.
These things are really easy these days to mimic someone's voice.
Also, I guess for something like MGM is really big. I doubt that they know the voice of everybody, so that's even more tricky.
But you could even. I mean,
well,
you know what your CEO sounds like, you can replicate his voice.
Now you have AI. AI can do really a lot of things in
really
social engineering,
almost near real time.
I've seen some proof of concept of attacks that were like kind of scary. Like
you already have video plugins, for example, for Zoom, where I can then pick your picture and then join a Zoom call, and then the video is being adjusted like I'm Lieuwe. So but coming
this
back
is the last time I'm presenting Threat Talks.
Well, let's see how it goes. So but coming back to the awareness, you're not going to stop these kind of attacks by training everyone. You also need technical measures. It will be good to train people, but you won't stop these kind of attacks. So
I think that there are some ways maybe you can try to introduce some extra steps. Like, for example, if I call you to get my password reset, maybe you're gonna, the help desk should call me back on a number that they have, that they know that is my number. Of course, there's always a way around this. You can have SIM swap or this kind of thing. So if it's really like done well, but it makes it a bit more difficult for sure.
Yeah, there are many things. Procedural solutions, like indeed have a proper authentication procedure for the help desk, and also technical ones.
The technical ones will come next to. But because if a user, let's do that. If you have a username and password and you're already in, that's quite easy. So multi-factor will help here as a technical measure, for example.
For sure, but there are also ways to bypass multi-factor authenticator. So, I mean, everything. There's always a way to bypass something.
Indeed,
exactly. So, what happened, like in this case, is that they have access to Okta. So, for maybe people that don't know what Okta is AIM, so identity management, and it uses, for example, they're like cloud-based, and they have like a sync for the Active Directory, so you can manage all the users, the permissions and everything. Once they were in, it's not really clear which account they got in, but probably was somebody with like at least some sort of administrative credentials. And once you are in, then of course you can imagine you can also disable multi-factor authenticator or just add your own multi-factor authenticator min. So you can do a lot of things for further attack the company. So what happened once they were in? They started to gather credential from the Okta agent, and they dumped credential and the ashes of other credential, and some of those credentials they were able to crack. Some don't.
So just so I get it, they fished credentials, username, password, maybe a second factor. That was an administrative component. Then they got onto the sync server between
the sync. Yeah, they had access to the sync agent. So from there they were able to dump credentials.
It's not something you can normally do with Okta or with your webmail or so. It's really a privileged account more, or a privileged user.
Yes,
so they probably used VPN or anything to get onto that system.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then once they had credentials and they gathered this credential, of course, they could start to move laterally in the network and then, establish more foothold. And they ended up, it appears that they ended up into the Okta agent server, which is, they have several endpoints that do different things for Okta, but this one probably was probably an agent server that is also responsible for the syncing between ID and the cloud, and they were able also to sniff additional credentials from hashes that they were not able to crack. So they got basically a lot of usernames and passwords and all this kind of
they
thing.
were in the path of the usernames and password going back and forth.
Yeah, indeed, yes. What makes this attack, in my opinion, quite cool is a technique that they used. I think it was nice. I mean, I think it's something a bit, what makes it a little bit special, I will say. They basically, to gain persistence, what they did, they deployed an extra IDP, an extra identity provider. So
I agree, it's cool.
It is cool. So there is like a functionality in Okta. I think mostly it's called org to org, and it allows you to add an extra IDP and have like trust via a federation relationship. And basically what they were able to do is to get distrust on the second IDP, and they created shadow user. So they created extra users that they were basically the same as the one in Okta.
So if you would go into Okta, you wouldn't see the user, but there was secretly another one that was also consulted and trusted. And Okta too.
Well, yes, kind of. But these users, they had the same roles, credentials, authorization from the original user that they created. And this can be done with different tools. For example, there's Keycloak that's open source as IDP, or you can have like an AWS, for example, IDP. And this gave them like an extra persistent mean. So if they would, for example, block an account, or which then happened, we will talk later, but they still could have the same access with the extra IDP that they added.
Yeah, but to be able to do this, they already have to be very deep in your network, have a lot of access, because deploying a server within a network, you already need to know where you are, what the network looks like, where you can host such a server.
Yeah, well, they leverage this functionality. So there was this functionality normally is used, like for example, when you have you have a merger between two companies, for example, and then you need to have like maybe they have their own IDP and things, and then you can create this trust relationship. So it's
was it an on-prem thing, or is it like a configuration of Okta and you could run
the configuration of Okta?
Yeah. So what happens is then that they spun up something in some cloud or so, and that was connecting directly to Okta, didn't go through the infrastructure of MGM.
Yeah.
You could probably look at it in Okta configuration.
Yeah.
If you look really carefully.
Yeah. I think so. I'm not an expert in Okta, and please correct if this is wrong, because I've never really set up or worked with it. But I believe that probably there should be also some administration logs that should auditing. At least say on auditing that.
We had this episode.
We'll award the correct answer with a shirt of that Luca's currently wearing.
Yeah, we had
in the comments.
We had an episode a few weeks ago about Okta that was also being breached and being detected by 1Password, because there was this auditing that if you, if I'm not mistaken, if you ask for the list of administrators, they got a mail that somebody asked for the list of administrators.
Yeah,
and that was the trigger to see, okay, there's something strange going on. So maybe auditing it, maybe it was turned on here, but that could help to at least early detect that something strange is going on.
Yeah. We're not saying that they didn't do it, because I assume that these attackers probably, if they know it, they will disable it at that point when you're so far. Access, but for sure, there should be trace somewhere.
Well, if you become the key maker of the company, because that's effectively what you're saying, I think it's hard to defend against that, except indeed going through logging. Then who made what keys? Then that's what you're saying in defense. Yeah. Okay.
Well, at this point, there's the weird things that happen, because I witnessed it in the first place, because I was really like following the news, in our bubble about what was happening, and there was some confusion, because at a certain point, suddenly MGM started to have problems. The network was down. People couldn't go to their rooms. Slot machines were not working. People couldn't pay. So you can imagine like a big casino resort it creates a lot of issues not having internet.
It's a huge resort. I mean, they have half the strip, huh?
That's quite big. So this a lot of sources also that I follow, and some that are quite reliable as well, they started to come out with news that were not correct about what happened. I'm not going to name sources, but more sources mentioned things that were not correct. And this led to ALPHV release an official statement to rectify everything that they were saying, because it was not correct, everything.
So what did they say, and what was not correct then?
So one of the things was, for example, about... I don't remember. Well, I remember whom, but one of the sources mentioned that they were trying to have the slot machines spilling out monies. So they attacked the slot machine to get money. And of course, ALPHV, they said like, that boob is stupid from us, because first of all, we don't get the money, so we don't care. And then second, if we do this, we get also less possibilities that they're going to pay our ransom, because we're already letting them lose money. So they wouldn't have done it. But
could have been a marketing trick by the MGM, because it attracts more customers.
Well, I don't know if that situation will work like that. But other things were like, for example, that they got attributed this attack before they even released the statement that they did it. And aside from that, the fact that everything was down, the news said that it was because of the ransomware, but that was not the case at that point yet.
Separate incident.
Well,
so
maybe
probably they detected some abnormal behavior. Maybe they had the audit logs from Okta, and as a response to that, they turned down Okta, but that was meant to authenticate everyone.
The kill switch.
It's kind of a kill switch
panic
indeed.
button.
The panic button. And if you cannot authenticate and get into your network anymore, then everything stops working. And that's probably what happened. So it was not the ransomware attack itself already. It was just MGM deciding, okay, this is really bad what we see here. We press this, let's say, panic button. Shut down Okta.
Sounds like a logical thing. But did they say that?
Well, so at the beginning they tried to limit by using conditional access and all these kind of things, but that did not work because, of course, there was the second IDP as well. Yeah. So seeing that it didn't work, then
regular users had more difficulty logging in then.
Yeah,
but the shadow users were still there.
Still there, and actually, what also ALPHV mentioned, it's like that. Probably the people, the networking people, they did not have a good knowledge about their own network, so they did not really know what was vital, what not, what would happen.
The question,
that's allegedly. Yeah. I'm not saying that it was in the statement.
The question I think really is if they have underestimated the impact of shutting down Okta, because really everything was going down at that time, and that it will cost you a lot of money, especially if you're a casino. So the question really is indeed, did they underestimate that?
I assume that's quite difficult, because if you're in that situation and you find out that the attacker is so deep in your network, then what are you gonna do? It's difficult. Like, it's not
pull the plug.
Yeah, I mean,
that's basically what they have done.
Trying to limit the blast radius, which basically if you shut everything down.
We can go to that direction. Should everything really being that tied together, that if you shut your Okta instance, which of course is your central identity and access management, that it shuts down everything. Maybe you have systems, maybe like the hotel rooms and the doors, that should run completely not connected to Okta. So completely separately.
It's hard to test though, these kind of things.
I was thinking, I think it's really hard.
Because they're 24/7 business, literally. I mean, there's always someone in the casino, so you can say, hey, tonight between 3 and 4, we're going to shut down Okta just for the kicks of it and see what happens.
See what happens, but I think you can, during the setup, so not in the emergency situation, but if you're running, let's say, a normal operation, so not under attack, then you should test these things. What happens if last week we had the episode with Davis. He also said, so bring to the board, hey, we need to pay this ransom. What are we going to do? Just practice it. And I think that could really have help here, because now the impact was really big.
Yeah, we don't know, but maybe they did. I mean, I can also, we have these discussions internally as well. I mean, you can, for example, fail over DNS or shut down half your DNS servers in one data center, which we do from time to time, just to figure out if a server, for example, only has one DNS server configured and you shut that one down, then it will stop working. And if you shut down that one server, you know that, right? So that's the kind of thing you test. And you can do this for maybe push your authentication, half your authentication down and all that. But altogether, that's harder, right?
Yeah.
Especially if it's cloud servers like Okta. It's not like they have like a primary and a secondary connection.
No, it takes time. It takes time. It's hard. I think you need to have a good design of your network. You need to start with the design. You really need to know how everything works in your company.
It starts with the design and then just test and practice.
Yeah. And then you need to have playbooks for incident response as well. That's I don't know if they had it, but
now maybe the playbook was just stated shut down Okta. We don't know.
In case of ransom shutdown, pull the lever.
The question is what will cost more: the ransomware attack being executed or shutting down Okta?
Yeah, but as we saw, and actually now I'm going to talk about the next step as well. Is just okay. The ransomware group, they try to get in contact via the secure channel with people, but apparently they were not getting an answer. So at a certain point, they deployed the ransomware anyway. So they didn't have Okta, plus now they got also the ransomware.
But they pulled the plug, of course, to hopefully prevent the ransom from happening. Yeah.
So in the end, they ended up.
Yeah. So what you're saying is, so they shut down the network preemptively, right?
Mhm.
But then it was even before the ransomware itself was deployed. So there was no ransom.
No, there was no ransomware.
No
yet.
bail set.
No, they also tried to get in contact for 24 hours. Apparently, as for the attacker, they mentioned that nobody replied for 24 hours. So then they actually deployed the ransomware, and they ransom, I think, 100 ESXi server, ESXi host, sorry. And then, they exfiltrated
that
data.
effectively really
played
brings
the-
down your
yeah.
network.
Yeah, the thing is, I think also that's what you need to think about it now. It's how much money MGM lost per day, because it's not only that you don't have the casino, you don't have the reservation system, you have people that are complaining, so you need to compensate them because they can't get in their room, they can't pay the restaurant, they can't pay the bar, and I know by experience because
You're there for your wedding anniversary.
And then you start to give out also things for free to compensate. So that's a lot of money that you're gonna lose. And now thinking that this happened already in the past, well, I don't think it was a ransomware, it was a data breach. But now you're losing, 5 million per day for 10 days, 50 million, let's assume. Wasn't it better to spend 10 million on your cybersecurity, redesign your network, given the fact that you already also had. So if you think...
They're probably doing that right now.
Yeah, if you think about it, it just saves more money to invest before, so then this does not happen. Because then, aside from all this damage, that is also reputational damage, you probably need to pay also the companies that are... you have to pay also the company that are coming to help you to restore, and so it's even extra money on top of that.
And you can do a lot of improvements on your network security or security overall for that amount of money.
Yeah. You don't even need that amount of money. I mean,
how much time did it take them to recover?
About
There's
10
hundreds
days.
of ESXi servers, you said.
About
So they
10
need to
days.
be cleaned or
Yeah,
10
I think
days.
10 days, about 10
They're
days.
down for 10 days in their core network. Yeah.
I mean, well, they started to restore. It's not that for 10 days people couldn't get to the room, but they started to restore slowly, bit per bit.
Step by step. Yeah.
And then after 10 days, that was...
Okay, and would it have been quicker to pay the ransom?
I don't want to go there. I don't know.
Well, maybe it's good to mention that.
Well, we mentioned this in our main talk, in thread talk earlier. I mean, because in the same time frame, Caesars, the other big one in the strip, also got hacked, and they did pay, and they paid a couple of million, I think. 1 day downtime. I mean, I hate to say it, but it looks like it's efficient.
Well, yes and no. So in a way, it's efficient. You recover probably faster, but another way is, you need to think about that the attacker still has your data if they exfiltrate it. So you need to trust that they're not going to do anything with that data. Which, I mean...
Hard to trust the person who's trying to rob you.
Yeah, we have seen it in the past also. There was like some kind of a scam between... this was one of the previous thread talks we discussed it. So, I mean...
Yeah, but the same goes for MGM. They still have the data. They got ransomed.
Yeah, but they didn't pay. So,
they didn't pay, yeah.
They shouldn't have the data for sure at the beginning to start with. But then you still have the risk that they still have the data. And you don't know what they're going to do with that. And aside from that, you're also financing this because you're giving them money.
That's a moral dilemma. Maybe even illegal.
But you're giving them power to continue because they get money. So it's a bit tricky.
In conclusion, Rob, if you suffer from a ransomware attack, what's the top 1, 2, or 3 things that you should do to prevent it? Because we don't want to get into this situation as a company.
Yeah, we skipped a bit over it in the beginning with the lateral movement. Of course, first make that very difficult. So that means implementing zero trust as a strategy. But that as a result of that, you will segment your network. I think that's one of the most important steps to take.
Which then means that if you are in a system, then to get to the next system that you actually want to go to is as difficult as the first step.
Exactly. Yeah. You need new vulnerabilities. The system needs to be exposed because the firewall is hopefully blocking
attacker should not gain
traffic.
extra privilege or trust in the environment.
Yeah, it should not be the case that if you own one system that you can own everything, or at least try to own everything. It should be really hard to get from one, let's call it a segment or protect service in zero trust terms to the next one. And then for example, the Okta server and Active Directory, those kind of servers that contain really sensitive stuff should be really tied down with strict policies, so that an attacker has a real hard time to get to those systems. And also, if they then get access and they are able to deploy some ransomware, then probably you can reduce the blast radius of that ransomware to specific segments again. So not the whole company goes down. So that would be my number one measure.
Yeah, many people would say that number one would be an EDR, MDR, XDR, whatever it's called these days, system. You're not saying that.
No, that's because in my opinion, EDR is important. And they are really good at detecting ransomware. So it is a good solution, which you should defend in layers, in my opinion. And if you should rely on your EDR solution, then I'm already at the endpoint. So that's my last line of defense, basically. And if they succeed in stopping the EDR solution, then they can do everything. So I'd rather stop them before they get there than purely relying on the EDR system. So the EDR system is still valid and a good solution.
But also the fact is that EDR can be bypassed. Like it is a thing. It can be done. That happens.
Exactly. And it's the last line. For firewalls, are also sometimes vulnerabilities that you can bypass some application checking, for example, on the firewall. But then your EDR is the second line. Or the third or the fourth, depending on your security. So always think in those layers. But Zero Trust as a strategy helps you there. So it's about, okay, we need to segment the network. These are quite sensitive data on this system. So we also put an EDR solution there. If you want to recover from ransomware, then you also have to need the need for a backup, of course. You need to be able to restore before the ransomware attack. So I think, you already have
What if the backup data is also encrypted already?
Yeah, so that's the hot item nowadays.
Yeah.
You have backup solutions that bring it kind of offline.
But I think that's one of the things that you should do. Like you should have playbooks and you should know what happened in case of attacks. But this is more for the, it's not really the prevention. It's more like the reaction to the attack. But in your playbook, for example, one of the things should be like secure your backups, put them offline if they're not.
But if suppose you would, the attacker is encrypting everything, then you, but there's still a decryptor installed with a key that's valid for the next 30 days or so. For 30 days, the data is encrypted. It's backed up in an encrypted fashion.
Mm-hmm. But that's why you should do it immediately. As soon, for example, in this case, if we take this attack, they found out that Okta was breached. They shut down their Okta. The ransomware was not deployed yet. At that point, they should have already taken the backup offline.
Oh, you should take the backup offline in the first. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So that's the first thing. Okay, they are inside. They are doing this. Let me at least secure a part of the backup. So at least until today, we can restore if something happens.
And you already have solutions nowadays that do that automatically. Yeah? So create a backup and then disconnect the backup from the solution and then the next one, etc.
But I'm also talking about a bit more sophisticated attack. So you install the ransomware, but you just don't make it effective yet. It does encrypt at that moment, but you don't see it because it also automatically decrypts. So and then the encrypted data is being backed up. So your backups contain encrypted data, and you don't notice it because you can all restore it and you can still use it because there's this little daemon or so like that has the key.
I guess it depends on which ransomware it is and how the specific ransomware works. But that is a risk. But for sure, a mitigation is put them offline because at least it is something like as we mentioned before, everything can be bypassed, everything can be found a workaround. So it depends how sophisticated.
And maybe your recovery point dates a bit further back in time. That might be a result of that. And practice restoring the backups, practice how to act on a ransomware attack, etc.
And as we learned last week, practice whether and how you would pay the ransom if you decide to do so.
Challenge your board.
If your choice is between bankruptcy and paying the ransom. Yeah, I can imagine you want to do it. Okay, gentlemen, a lot of information. Thank you very much. This movie of yours will probably be very offline, or very non-physical. So I'm not sure if I'm going to look at it.
It's going to be boring.
As a courtety to you,
it's going to be really boring.
I will look at it. Yeah. Thank you very much. If you like this Threat Talk, please like us in your favorite app. That means that next time we will automatically get a new episode in your inbox, and it also helps us spread the word further. Thank you very much for that, and we hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Threat Talks, a podcast by Onto It Cybersecurity and AMSIX. Did you like what you heard? Do you want to learn more? Follow Threat Talks to stay up to date on the topic of cybersecurity.